When the justice system makes a mistake, it can take a long time to turn it around. Tonight, we have a case of justice finally done in San Francisco, when angry citizens worked for years to free a man wrongfully convicted of murder. And here with that story is Bob Brown. Bob.
You were talking about the efforts of half a dozen lawyers, a journalist, a determined citizens committee that raised nearly $200,000, all to reverse a conviction based on a question of mistaken identity. And one of the keys to that effort was the work of a talented private investigator named Tink Thompson, who begins our story where the murder took place, in San Francisco, in Chinatown.
It was a summer evening, June 3rd, 1973. The light was very much like it is right now. The street was a bit more crowded than it is right now. The victim came out of here. It used to be the Pinyin Bakery. Came out of this door and then moved rather quickly along here. He stopped right here at the corner waiting for the light as we're waiting for the light now. And when the light changed, he stepped off the curb and took a bullet in the back of the head. The gun was actually pointed right at the witnesses. He began to run down Pacific in this direction, throwing away the gun in Beckett Alley. He then turned at the corner and disappeared. The bus is on the way. All of that confusion, all of that trauma, 3 seconds. And that's what led to Chol Soo Lee being put away for 10 years.
The killing of Yip Yi Tak in June of 1973 was the 16th murder associated with San Francisco Chinese youth gangs. A 21-year-old Korean immigrant who barely spoke English, Chol Soo Lee, was convicted of the murder and spent 10 years in the California prison system, caught in a chain of circumstances that ended at San Quentin. There, he spent 4 years in a cell near the gas chamber under a death sentence, waiting out his appeals. One of the attorneys who handled those appeals, Stuart Hanlon, says Chol's case had high stakes attached to it by the city of San Francisco.
Chinatown gang killings were getting out of hand and affecting tourism. And then all of a sudden comes this case, and in the middle of the highest tourist area of Chinatown, someone is blown away, and it got nationwide publicity. And the mayor, who was then the mayor Alioto, basically was on the front page the next day screaming, "Enough is enough." The police department was under this incredible pressure to get somebody. It was get some Asian. Didn't matter who it was.
The atmosphere when Chol was arrested was tense. Because of the youth gang wars, Chinatown in San Francisco no longer seemed a quaint, safe place for tourists to visit, a place where faces were often viewed as just part of the scenery. The youth gangs reflected the bitterness that existed between old and new Chinatown factions. A wave of new immigrants, attracted here by more relaxed U.S. policies in the 60s, had challenged the traditions of the established Chinese, who had been sequestered in Chinatown for more than a century to escape the discrimination they faced when they came to America. Although Chol was Korean, he was part of that new wave of Asian immigrants, arriving here in 1963 at the age of 12.
I just kind of assume almost everybody in the United States will speak in Korean, and the lifestyle be almost like in Korea. It'll be same in the United States.
It wasn't the same, and from the beginning, Chol was an outsider, a street kid. But how did he become a murder suspect? Chol Soo Lee was jobless, living in a small walk-up room above a place called the Club Chi Chi, only a few blocks from where the killing took place. As a teenager, he'd been in and out of California youth correctional facilities for street crimes. And just before the Chinatown murder, a gun he'd been carrying had gone off in his room.
Cho had discharged a weapon on the night before the killing. A ballistics test was run on the slug removed from the wall, and at first the police believed that the same gun had shot the victim up here and had also fired into the wall. That's why Cho was arrested. That's why Cho was originally incarcerated. Turned out the ballistics test was completely wrong.
Although the ballistics test was false, it had set the police on Chol's track. Eyewitnesses were gathered for a police lineup, and 3 picked Chol as the killer. They were John Huey, a visiting sailor who saw the gunman leave the scene from across the street; Andy Mill, a world-class skier who was at the corner diagonally opposite from where the shooting occurred; and David Lennon, standing near Mill. The two men had been skiing together before driving to San Francisco that day. Their testimony convicted Chol Soo Lee at his murder trial. He was defended by court-appointed attorneys who failed to produce any other witnesses from the scene of the crime who might have contradicted the prosecution witnesses.
Chol Soo Lee was 21 years old when he was convicted of the Chinatown killing and sent here to California's dual vocational institution to begin serving a 5-year to life term for first-degree murder. More than 3 years after coming here, he did kill a man, at this point in a prison recreation yard. The victim was a murderer and self-proclaimed white supremacist named Morris Needham. Chol claimed the killing was in self-defense, that Needham attacked him with a knife, and Chol then turned the knife on Needham and stabbed him.
Again, Chol had been an outsider swept into a world of gang warfare, this time prison gangs. They had clearly divided this prison along ethnic lines, black, white, Hispanic. There were few Asian prisoners. Chol Soo Lee's prosecutors charged that he had killed Morris and Needham on a contract for a Mexican-American gang. But Chol claimed he was the intended victim.
Now, there was the day in the prison yard where you ran into Morris Needham. Mm-hmm. What happened then?
He grabbed me. And the only time within the prison system, anybody who get grabbed is when when somebody trying to stab another person. That's when you try and grab somebody.
Now, when Morris Needham grabbed you, why didn't you just run away?
Coming down self-survival, you know, there's no place to run within the prison system. And I guess everything just happened very too quickly, really too trying to analyze what was happening at the time.
Chol Soo Lee was convicted of first-degree murder in the Needham case. And because it was his second murder conviction, he was sentenced to die in the gas chamber and placed here in San Quentin on death row.
How much tragedy does it take for some people on the streets to listen when somebody trying to explain to them? This feeling, I think if the second incident ever took place, I'd still be in prison today, or possibly did one another.
That second incident, the Needham stabbing death, actually served as the catalyst that began to turn the justice system in Chol's favor. Here's why. Because his attorneys wanted to save him from the death penalty, they began seeking ways to overturn the conviction that had sent him to prison, the Chinatown killing. And they were aided by an unexpected source, a Korean-born journalist named K.W. Lee, who helped form a committee to pay for Chol's defense. K.W. Lee's independent investigation of the Chinatown killing for a Sacramento newspaper had led him to believe Chol was innocent. The committee raised money for a team of attorneys and investigators. One of them was Private Detective Tink Thompson. He located police documents that the original defense attorneys had not seen.